The grand hall of the space station cafeteria was full of voices, clattering dishes, and the hum of machines. Humans in uniform laughed together. Aliens of many shapes traded stories in their own strange tongues. The air was warm with food smells and the light of golden lamps. It should have been a place of comfort. It should have felt alive. But in the middle of this crowded room sat one girl who made everything go silent around her. She had skin like moonlight mixed with deep ocean blue. Her hair was dark, flowing down her back like black rivers. Her eyes were large, bright, and almost glowing red. She was beautiful, but she was also feared. Whenever she sat at a table, people moved away. The chairs beside her were always empty. Trays of food shifted farther down the tables. Conversations grew quieter, then louder. Only once distance was aid. She sat there alone, her hands folded together, trying to appear calm. But inside she felt the weight of every look. Some people glanced at her with curiosity, others with anger, many with disgust, and always, with fear. The fear came from her scent. Her species gave off a natural smell, something soft and unique to them. To humans it was strange, sharp, and mysterious. Rumors had spread through the station. Some said the scent carried poison. Others claimed it clouded the mind, bringing madness. Some whispered that one breath of it meant death. No one could agree, but the rumor was enough, and so, the girl was left alone. She tried not to care. She told herself she did not need them. She told herself she was used to it. But every time someone stood up and moved away, every time someone pulled their friend closer just to avoid her, the cracks inside her heart grew deeper. This day was no different. She sat at the far end of the cafeteria. A half-empty glass of water rested on her table. No plate of food, because she knew the staff hesitated to serve her. She stared at the glass, the liquid clear and still, and tried to ignore the noise of laughter that did not belong to her. Then, the door opened. A human soldier walked in. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a quiet strength in his step. His uniform was worn, marked with lines of dust from recent duty. His hair was neatly cut, his beard trimmed, but his eyes looked tired, as if he had seen too much war. He scanned the room, searching for a place to sit. There were many open seats. The cafeteria was full, but no one was alone except her. And then his eyes stopped. They stopped on her. The alien girl looked up by instinct. For a moment their eyes met. Her breath caught in her throat. She expected him to look away, like everyone else always did. She expected him to turn his head, wrinkle his nose, and walk far, far away. But he didn't. The soldier began to walk. Not to the other humans, not to the noisy groups, not to the safer side of the room. He walked straight to her table. The alien girl froze. Her mind spun in panic. Why is he coming here? Did someone send him? Is he here to threaten me? The room grew quiet. People noticed. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. Words died in throats. Dozens of eyes turned to watch. The soldier reached her table. He pulled the chair opposite her and sat down without hesitation. The alien girl's lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Her hands curled tight against the edge of the table. The soldier leaned back in his chair, calm as if nothing unusual was happening. He picked up the glass in front of him and poured himself some water from the nearby jug. "You sit alone," he said simply. His voice was deep but steady, carrying no judgment. The girl's throat felt dry. "Everyone prefers it that way," she whispered, her words almost shaking. The soldier raised the glass to his lips, drank, and then placed it down with care. "Do you know what I smell right now?" he asked, his eyes steady on hers. Her heart pounded. She wanted to tell him to stop, to go away, to not humiliate her in front of all these eyes. She wanted to vanish, but something in his voice made her pause. "No," she answered carefully. The soldier smiled faintly, not mocking but warm, almost soft. "I smell home," he said. Her chest tightened. She stared at him, searching his face for a lie, for cruelty, for the trick that always came. But there was none. His words were honest. His eyes were calm. Around them, whispers began to spread. People shook their heads, muttered warnings, and some even laughed in disbelief. But the soldier ignored them all. His gaze did not leave her, though alien girl had lived her whole life hearing that her scent was a curse, that she was dangerous, that she was unwanted. And now, here, in the center of this bright golden hall filled with watching eyes, one human spoke something no one else had dared. Home. The word echoed inside her like music. For the first time in years, her lips curved into the smallest smile. Fragile, uncertain, but real. And in that moment, everything changed. The cafeteria had grown quiet after the soldier's words. The laughter that once filled the air seemed to vanish, replaced by hushed whispers. Every eye followed the strange pair at the lonely table. The alien girl no one dared sit beside, and the human soldier who had just broken the unspoken rule. Diko. Girl lowered her eyes, unable to bear the weight of so many stares. She wanted to believe his words. I smell home. But doubt pressed hard against her heart. Humans lied. They mocked. They used words as weapons. She had lived long enough to know this truth. Yet his voice had not carried the sharp edge of cruelty. It had been calm, steady, and warm. Why? She asked at last, her tone soft but sharp enough to cut through the silence between them. Why are you sitting here? Do you not fear me? The soldier leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. His posture was relaxed, his eyes focused only on her. Fear you? He repeated. Why should I? You're eating alone, not attacking anyone. You're breathing just like me. That's not something to fear. Her lips trembled as if to speak, but no sound came. She had heard too many lies. But this man spoke as if the truth was simple, as if it needed no defense. He continued. When I walked in, I saw dozens of faces, all laughing, all busy with their own lives, but you. He paused, tilting his head. You looked like someone waiting for something. Maybe waiting for someone. Her heart raced. He was reading her too, closely. She wanted to deny it, to push him away, but the words stuck in her throat. You are wrong, she whispered at last. I wait for no one. I know better than that. But her voice betrayed her. Even she could hear the pain hiding behind her denial. The soldier studied her quietly. Then he smiled, not with amusement, but with understanding. I used to say the same thing, he murmured. After battle, when the stars felt cold and the barracks were empty, I told myself I needed no one, but inside, I hoped someone would sit beside me anyway. His honesty disarmed her. No one had ever shared such a thing with her, not without mockery. Around them, the cafeteria noise began to rise again. Humans shook their heads, muttering that the soldier had lost his mind. A group of men whispered warnings. One of them even laughed loudly, shouting, Careful, soldier, one breath and you'll be dead before dessert. The words stabbed through the room like knives. The alien girl lowered her head, shame burning her cheeks. She was used to it. But somehow, now, the insult cut deeper. Not because it was new, but because it was spoken in front of the only human who had shown her kindness. But the soldier didn't move. He didn't rise, didn't flinch, didn't let his eyes wander toward the voices. Instead, he leaned closer, lowering his tone so only she could hear. They're wrong, he said firmly. They smell fear, I smell home. That's all. Her chest tightened. For a long moment she couldn't speak. Something inside her, something long buried, stirred like a faint flame in the dark. Finally she asked, Home? What does that word mean to you? The soldier's gaze drifted for a moment as if looking at a memory beyond the cafeteria walls. It means safety, he said quietly. It means a place where the war doesn't follow me. It means a place where I don't have to wear armor on my heart. His eyes returned to hers. When I breathed your scent, that's what I felt. A place I didn't have to fight anymore. Her breath caught. No one had ever described her scent that way. Not once, She had been called curse, poison, danger, disease, but never home. For the first time in years, she wanted to believe. She swallowed hard, her voice shaking as she spoke. If you stay near me, they will hate you. They will call you weak. They will say you are infected. The soldier gave a small shrug, as if the idea didn't bother him at all. Let them say what they want. I've been hated before, but I'd rather sit with truth than stand with lies. She stared at him, wide-eyed, unable to find words. In that moment, a strange silence grew between them, not heavy but gentle, the kind of silence that carried peace instead of tension. The soldier picked up a fork and began to eat from the tray he'd brought with him, as if nothing around them mattered, as if the eyes, the whispers, the judgment were all just dust in the air. And for the alien girl, it was the first time silence didn't feel like loneliness. As the minutes passed, she realized something else. She wasn't just waiting anymore. She wasn't wishing. For the first time, someone had walked into her world and stayed. And though the cafeteria was filled with strangers, though shadows of doubt still lingered in her heart, a seed of hope began to take root inside her. Hope that maybe, just maybe, she was not as cursed as the universe had told her. Days passed on the space station. The cafeteria was no longer the same place for the alien girl. Before, it had been a hall of silence and rejection, where she sat with nothing but her own thoughts for company. But now, whenever she walked in, she searched for one face, the human soldier. And almost always he was there. He would greet her with a nod, a quiet smile, and without hesitation, sit down beside her. The stares of others still followed them, but his calm presence made them feel smaller, weaker. He did not hide. He did not flinch. And slowly, she began to believe he never would. One evening, as the golden lamps cast soft light over the emptying cafeteria, he asked her, "What is your name?" She hesitated. Her name had always been a burden. It carried the sound of her people, the sound that humans mocked or twisted into cruel jokes. But something about his voice gave her courage. "Sirenia," she said softly. The soldier repeated it slowly with care. "Sirenia." He nodded. "It's beautiful." No one had ever said that to her. The word felt strange in her ears when spoken with kindness. "And you?" she asked, her voice quieter than the hum of the air filters. "Callan," he replied. Just Callan. Their names hung between them like a fragile thread, something delicate but strong enough to connect two worlds. In the following days, their conversations grew longer. Kaylin asked about her people, her homeworld. At first, she resisted. Her kind had been hunted, misunderstood, scattered across the galaxy, but his patience wore down her walls. She told him about the forests of silver trees, where the air glowed at night with living light. She described the rivers that sang like music, carrying scents that marked family and memory. Her scent, she explained, was not poison. It was memory. It was her people's way of carrying their past with them. Each carried a unique scent, and, to those who loved them, it meant safety, warmth, belonging. But to strangers, to those unwilling to understand, it was only fear. Callan listened without interruption. His eyes never wavered. When she finished, he simply said, "Then they have never learned what home really means." Another time, she asked him about his battles. He was reluctant, but he shared pieces. He told her about the war on the desert, Moon, where sandstorms cut the sky into fire. He told her about comrades who never returned, about the cold silence after victory, when there was no one left to celebrate with. "I learned to fight," he said quietly. "But I never learned how to stop fighting inside myself." Sirenia lowered her gaze. For the first time, she understood. His armor was not just the uniform he wore. It was in his heart, his soul, forged by years of survival. And yet with her, he let that armor fall. The bond between them grew, unspoken at first, then stronger with every glance, every word. She began to wait for him, not with fear, but with hope. The moment he sat at her table, the world seemed less hostile, less cruel, but the whispers around them did not stop. "Look at him," someone muttered one day. "He's cursed now." "Crazy soldier," another sneered. "Her scent has broken his mind." "They'll both bring trouble." Serenia heard every word. The poison of their voices still hurt, but now she was not alone. She looked to Kalen, expecting anger, maybe pain, but he only smiled faintly and said, "They don't understand. That's all." And in that simple response, she found strength. One night, as they sat together in the dim cafeteria long after most had left, she asked him a question that had weighed on her for years. "Why do you not turn away? Every other human does. Even those who once tried to be kind. They left. Always they leave." Callan studied her, his expression calm but serious. "Because I know what it feels like to be left behind. I know what it feels like when everyone turns their back. And I won't do that to you." Her chest tightened. His words struck deep, deeper than any kindness she had ever received. She wanted to believe him, but part of her still whispered doubts. Still, she asked, "What if I bring you danger? What if I bring you shame?" Callan leaned forward, his eyes steady. "Then let it come. Because I would rather walk through danger with you than walk through safety alone." Silence filled the space between them, but this silence was not cold or empty. It was alive. It was heavy with meaning, with the unspoken truth that their bond had grown into something neither could deny. Serenia lowered her eyes, but for the first time, it was not from shame. It was to hide the small, trembling smile that broke across her face. She was not just an outcast anymore, she was someone seen, someone chosen. And though she did not yet speak it aloud, her heart whispered the word he had given her that first day: home. The bond between Callan and Serenia grew stronger with each passing day. Their meetings in the cafeteria had become routine, like a heartbeat in the rhythm of their lives. For them it was simple. For everyone else it was a scandal. Whispers turned into warnings. Warnings turned into anger. And soon anger turned into open confrontation. One afternoon, as Serenia entered the cafeteria, she felt the shift in the air. The usual stares were sharper, heavier. People weren't just watching her, they were waiting. Callan was already at their table, his tray in front of him. When she sat down, voices rose. "Unbelievable," someone muttered loudly. "He's infected." Another spat. "They'll bring trouble to all of us." A group of 3 soldiers stood up, their boots loud on the metal floor as they marched toward the table. Their faces were hard, their eyes full of judgment. The cafeteria fell silent again, everyone holding their breath. The tallest soldier leaned over the table, his glare fixed on Callan. "Orders say no contact with her kind. You know why? Because she's dangerous." Callan didn't move. He kept his calm, his voice steady. "She's not dangerous," the man sneered. "Her scent poisons the mind, it clouds judgment, and it's working on you. You've been sitting here too long, soldier, you're weak now." Serenia lowered her eyes, shame burning her chest. It was happening again. The same rejection, the same accusations. She wanted to stand, to leave, to protect him from their cruelty. But before she could move, Callan spoke. "If weakness means treating someone with respect, then I'll be weak," he said firmly. Gasps spread across the cafeteria. The soldiers' fists clenched. "You dare talk back to your own brothers?" "I dare to tell the truth," Callan replied, his tone like steel. The room seemed to shrink, the air heavy with tension. For a moment, it looked like fists would fly. But the soldiers turned sharply and walked out, muttering curses. The silence that followed was worse than noise. Dozens of eyes burned with judgment. Callan didn't care. He picked up his fork and continued eating, as if nothing had happened. But Serenia's heart was heavy. This was no longer just whispers. This was war brewing inside the station. Later that night, Callan was summoned. His commander stood tall in the dimly lit office, his eyes cold. "You're putting the entire unit at risk," the commander said. "You will stop meeting with the alien immediately." Callan stood at attention, his jaw tight. With respect, sir, she's no threat. She is every kind of threat, the commander snapped. To our discipline, to morale, to safety. The others see you with her and it weakens their trust. Do you want mutiny on this station? Callan's silence was his answer. The commander's voice grew lower, more dangerous. This is your final warning. Stay away from her, or you'll face charges, do you understand? Callan saluted, turned, and walked out without a word. When he returned to the cafeteria the next day, Serenia was already there, but her face was pale, her eyes uncertain. She had heard the whispers, the threats. She could feel the walls closing in. You should not be here, she whispered when he sat beside her. They will destroy you for this. They already hate me. I cannot let them hate you too. Callan leaned closer, his voice steady. I told you before I won't turn away. Her eyes glistened, but she shook her head. If you stay, they will make you suffer. And her voice cracked. I cannot bear to watch you suffer for me. For the first time, Callan's calm cracked. His hand slammed lightly against the table, drawing stares from nearby. His eyes burned with quiet fire. I have fought in wars where I bled for people who never remembered my name, he said. I've stood beside commanders who saw me as nothing but a weapon, and not once did I hesitate to give them my loyalty. Now for the first time I've found someone who makes me feel human again. Someone who makes me feel home. And you ask me to leave? Serenia's breath caught. His words struck deeper than any wound. She wanted to argue, to tell him it was hopeless, that the world would never let them be. But his eyes left no space for denial. Around them, whispers rose again, harsher this time. Some voices spoke of punishment, some spoke of exile, and others whispered of worse. Serenia looked around the room, fear tightening in her chest. The walls of the station seemed to close in, the lights above dimming under the weight of so many hateful eyes. And in that moment, she understood. Their bond was no longer just a quiet scandal. It was a spark in a room filled with fuel. Soon something would burn. That night, Serenia stood by the observation window, staring at the endless stars. Her reflection looked back at her, fragile and uncertain. She pressed her hand against the glass, whispering to herself, he calls me home, but what if I destroy his? Behind her, footsteps echoed softly. Callan's voice came, calm but unshakable. Home isn't destroyed by fear, he said. It's destroyed by giving in to it. The storm came faster than either of them expected. 2 days after the commander's warning, the cafeteria was louder than ever. Soldiers gathered in groups, whispering, glaring. Serenia felt the weight of every look, sharper than blades. Callan walked beside her unshaken, but she could feel the tension in his shoulders. This time the whispers did not stay whispers. She shouldn't be here. She's cursed. He's already lost. He belongs with her now. He's no longer one of us. The voices rose louder and louder until they became shouts. A chair scraped. A soldier slammed his fist against a table. And then the commander himself entered the hall. His boots echoed against the floor. His presence silenced the room instantly. He looked at Callan, his voice cold as iron. You've defied direct orders. This ends now. Callan stood straight, his jaw set. She has done nothing wrong. She exists as wrong, the commander barked. Her scent is corruption. Look around you, your brothers see it, they feel it. And if you won't protect them, then you are no longer one of them. The crowd muttered in agreement, their eyes burning with fear and anger. Serenia's chest tightened. She knew what came next. Callan would be punished, maybe even exiled. And it would all be because of her. She stepped forward, her voice trembling, but clear. If it is me you fear, then I will go. Leave him. Do not punish him for my curse. But Callan reached out, taking her hand in his grip firm and steady. Gasps spread through the cafeteria. Dozens of eyes widened. Never before had a human touched her willingly. Callan's voice rang out, louder than the whispers, louder than the fear. She is not a curse, He looked at every face in the room, unflinching. You call her scent poison. I call it memory. You call it danger. I call it home. And I will not abandon home. The words struck the air like lightning. Silence fell, heavy and complete. The commander's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. His power was built on fear, and for the first time, fear was cracking. Some soldiers shifted uneasily. Doubt flickered in their faces. If one of their own, a decorated soldier, could sit beside the alien without fear, could breathe her scent and live, then perhaps everything they had believed was wrong. The commander's voice broke the silence. You shame us all, Kalen. Kalen's hand tightened on Serenya's. No, he said firmly. I free us. The commander's glare burned, but he could not force the room to agree. Whispers began again, softer this time, but different. Not anger, not hatred, curiosity, doubt. Serenya's eyes filled with tears she had not shed in years. For so long she had lived as an outcast, carrying the weight of other people's fear. But now, one human's courage had shifted the air around her. The chains of silence had cracked. The commander turned sharply and left the hall, his boots, echoing like thunder, fading into distance. The crowd did not follow. They only stared, unsure, uncertain. But the spell of fear was broken. That night, Serenya and Kalen stood by the observation window, the endless stars stretching before them. You risked everything, she whispered. Kalen's eyes softened. I only risked lies. What I kept was truth. She looked away, her voice small. I don't understand why me. Why choose someone everyone hates? He stepped closer, his hand brushing hers gently. Because where everyone else sees danger, I see comfort. Where they smell fear, I smell home, and I would rather walk into exile with you than live safely without you. Her lips trembled, her heart aching with a feeling she had buried for too long. Slowly, carefully, she let her fingers weave into his. The stars outside burned brighter, like witnesses to a vow unspoken but eternal. For the first time in her life, Serenya felt the truth settle deep inside her chest. She was not cursed. She was not poison. She was not alone. She was home. In the days that followed, the whispers on the station did not stop. Some still glared, still feared, still hated. But others began to question. A few nodded quietly when they passed. A few even dared to smile. Change was slow, but it had begun. And at the center of it all, an alien girl who had once been an outcast sat with a human soldier who refused to abandon her. Their story was not the end of conflict. It was not the end of fear. But it was the beginning of something greater. A beginning where love was stronger than lies. Where courage was stronger than fear. Where one word could change everything. Home.